farmer alley. Tonight, one person is dead and two others are fighting for their lives after a major crash on a busy Mississauga street.
An adult female has succumbed to her injuries and been pronounced deceased at hospital.
Police say two pedestrians were hit while crossing Central Parkway before the driver crashed into a tree. Plus,
this proposal does establish a clear pathway forward for this round of bargaining.
We bring your reaction to an agreement between Ontario high school teachers and the province that would keep bargaining going and avoid future strikes. And
he succumbed to his injuries, unfortunately.
A tragic ending to the search for a teen boy who was swept away into a storm drain after heavy rains last night. Good evening. We begin with developing news from Mississauga tonight, where one person is dead and two people are in life-threatening condition after a collision between pedestrians and a pickup truck. This is a look at the scene near Central Parkway East and Hurontario Street. It happened at around 6:30 tonight. Police say one of the pedestrians, a woman, was killed. The other pedestrian and the driver of the truck are in hospital in critical condition. Here is more on what happened from Peel Regional Police.
What I can tell you is that the pickup truck was traveling eastbound on Central Parkway when it struck the pedestrians who were crossing either north or south of Central Parkway. The subsequent collision into a tree happened secondary to the impact with the collisions with the pedestrians.
Police are investigating the circumstances that led up to the crash, including whether the pedestrians were crossing at a crosswalk. No charges have been laid at this time. Investigators are appealing to anyone with dash cam footage from the area at the time of the crash to contact them. A major development out of Queen's Park this evening. The union representing Ontario secondary school teachers has reached a deal with the Ministry of Education on a process of how to move ahead when negotiations stall. The deal would avoid future strikes, but other teachers' unions, also in talks with the government, don't appear to be following suit. Clara Pasica has been tracking reaction and has more.
It's a proposal that would keep high school students in the classroom and a strike off the table for 4 years. The OSSTF and the province tentatively agreeing on a deal that would send them to binding arbitration if they can't resolve their differences.
We know the Ford government doesn't respect labor negotiations, and they don't respect education or the people who work in education sector. But now this proposal opens up a significant pathway towards securing real investments in public education.
The education minister pleased both sides have reached this step.
A student that started grade 9 in an English public school last year will be able to graduate over the next 3 years without the threat of a strike. That is an amazing achievement for peace, for stability, and for academic success. One that we want to replicate right across the board for all students in elementary and Catholic and French.
But it so far doesn't look like other students will get that stability. In a joint statement tonight, 3 other unions representing Catholic educators, elementary school educators, and French educators said they don't intend to follow suit. But this Catholic board teacher is looking to OSSTF's move with interest.
If there is a way to minimize disruption of learning through strikes, which includes work to rule, then I want to see OWECTA consider this as a possibility for us as a union.
This labor expert says the split between unions could spell trouble for those still negotiating.
And I think that sets a very dangerous precedent for unions in the education sector because it normalizes the idea that the right to strike is unnecessary. And that will leave education workers very vulnerable in future rounds of bargaining when economic and political context changes.
This parent says she'll get behind elementary school teachers striking if it means more support for her son.
You know, certainly don't want to have a strike happen, but if a strike were to happen, if teachers felt that this was something that they felt was needed, then they have my full support.
The proposal now goes to a vote with the OSSTF. If approved, bargaining will continue until October 27th before an arbitrator would step in. Meanwhile, other education worker unions remain in bargaining for a collective agreement. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Toronto.
Staying at Queen's Park now and the ongoing controversies surrounding the Ford government's Greenbelt land swap. The Premier saying tonight he's confident there was nothing criminal in his government's decision to remove specific land from the protected area. It's the first time we've heard from Doug Ford since the RCMP said it's looking into whether it will launch an investigation into that deal. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has the latest.
Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Premier Doug Ford was asked about the RCMP potentially looking into the Greenbelt decision.
If they do, I take it very serious, extremely serious. And I'll have zero tolerance if there was any nonsense going on.
But he also says he doesn't believe there was anything criminal.
Well, I'm confident. I'm confident I won't tolerate that.
It was an unusual appearance for the Premier. No announcement, but taking questions. No surprise, all about the Greenbelt controversy, swirling for weeks. Ford says he stands behind his housing minister.
And I have full confidence in Steve Clark. He's out there trying to build homes.
All three opposition parties have called for his resignation. It's the first time Ford faced reporters since Ryan Amato resigned as the housing minister's chief of staff. The Auditor General found he had direct access to a few developers who suggested the Greenbelt changes and could see their property values skyrocket by more than $8 billion. Ford was asked how he couldn't have known what was happening.
I can't micromanage one of the largest, I call it a corporation, one of the largest corporations in North America of $204 billion of revenue. I don't believe in micromanaging. I believe in delegating.
The NDP leader doesn't believe others wouldn't have been in on the plans.
Premier wants to come out here and say that he doesn't like to micromanage government like it's a corporation. That's called being the Premier of this province. That's called governing.
She urged the Premier to be more transparent. The Auditor General found staff deleted emails, and the opposition leader referenced a recent Global News report that said the Premier gave out his personal cell phone number with no calls to his government phone for a week.
If he doesn't think it's corruption and he wants to prove that to the people of Ontario, great. Open up the books. Show us the emails. Tell us who you were talking to on those weeks when your phone, your government devices went dark.
And today, confirmation of another potential investigation. The Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner says it's gathering relevant information and considering next steps, saying retaining government records is critical, including on personal devices. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
You were looking at a live shot of the downtown Toronto skyline. A gorgeous Friday night, 21 degrees and partly cloudy. Let's check in now with Riley Lachuk for a look at your forecast.
Well, Farah, I thought I'd take a look back at yesterday really quick. So we did see some tornado warnings through the Windsor region last night. That bringing quite a bit of rain. This is a 48-hour rainfall total for southwestern Ontario. Areas south of Windsor over toward Leamington seeing 150, 200 millimeters of rain in the last 48 hours. So quite a bit of rain, and of course the concerns with flooding that come with it. So looking at some of our daytime highs across southern Ontario, still having some issues with that weather station in Windsor, but we have seen temperatures around 22, 23 degrees this afternoon, 24 this afternoon in Toronto and Hamilton, so a fairly comfortable day today. Looking at forecast temperatures for tomorrow morning, 19 first thing in the morning in Windsor and in Toronto as well. Pretty seasonal for this time of the year, I think. And as we look into the day tomorrow, we're looking at 17 overnight tonight, partly cloudy skies, a slim chance of some showers through the afternoon through the GTA tomorrow. I think a slight risk of a thunderstorm as well, but overall a pleasant weekend, maybe a bit humid and a bit breezy tomorrow. I'll talk about that when I come back.
All right, thanks, Riley. Last night's storm turned deadly in the city's north end. A teen boy was swept away into a storm drain after heavy rains. Earlier today, a frantic search and rescue mission sadly turned into a recovery mission at Earl Bales Park. The boy's death being called a case of misadventure. Greg Ross has the dramatic details.
Dozens of firefighters and police officers started searching for the missing teen at around 1:30 this morning after it was reported he had been swept down a storm drain. After several hours, his body was recovered.
He succumbed to his injuries, unfortunately.
The teen, along with a friend, lifted a manhole cover near the ski hill at Earl Bales Park and climbed in. While they were inside, rain caused the water levels to rise, eventually sweeping them down a drainage tunnel.
The tunnel, my understanding, is about 300 meters long that they went through. There's a grate at the other end which opens on hinges to a large chute that empties out into the river just that right below the reservoir that's attached to the Don Valley Golf Course.
First responders say that one of the teens was able to cling to a concrete wall along the side of the ravine like this one. They say he was there for as long as 30 minutes before he was able to pull himself out.
He walked up to the parking lot and alerted some passerbys who called 911.
It's not entirely clear why the two teens ventured into the manhole in the first place, particularly on a night when it was raining.
When there's intense rain, as we had last night, sometimes the stormwater system can get overloaded, and the water flow is quite strong. And unless you're a very strong swimmer who can get out of the way, you will be swept away.
There are signs posted around the park warning that water levels can change quickly, but some are wondering if it's enough.
Whether there could have been better precautions by the city, more guards, more warning signs. So there's a little bit of talk and buzz about that, I'm not going to lie.
And when it comes to safety measures, signage is crucial. And because this occurred in the dark, illuminated sign is very important.
The Toronto and Region Conservation Authority also issues water level warnings when they are higher than usual or expected to rise. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
It is a story that is making big headlines internationally. A Mississauga man accused of selling lethal substances aiding in suicides. Kenneth Law was back in a Brampton court today. Authorities in the UK have linked 88 deaths to the lethal products he's accused of selling on Canadian websites. Angelina King is tracking the court developments and has the latest.
A brief virtual appearance and bail hearing put over in this Brampton courthouse this afternoon for Kenneth Law, who's facing 2 charges of counseling or aiding suicide in connection with 2 deaths in Peel region. Peel police accuse him of selling a lethal substance, sodium nitrate, online and targeting people at risk of self-harm. Law has denied all allegations. Today, police in the UK announced 272 people there bought products from Canadian websites selling substances to assist with suicide. Investigators there say 88 of those people have died, among them 22-year-old Tom Parfit.
We have internet forums who prey on vulnerable people like my son, Tom.
The UK's National Crime Agency saying, at this early stage, there are no confirmed links between the items purchased from the websites and cause of death in any of these cases. The agency's deputy director going on to say the NCA has taken the decision to conduct an investigation into potential criminal offences committed in the UK. This operation is underway. That operation is part of international investigations following Law's arrest. While authorities aren't linking him to the UK deaths at this time, David Parfit says otherwise.
My son was found dead with a packet with Law's company name. I also want to ensure that Kenneth Law is charged with the death of my son. I want to make sure that this process leads to that conclusion. And that's my biggest question mark. At the end of this investigation, what actions will be taken against Kenneth Law?
The 57-year-old is accused of sending around 1,200 packages to more than 40 countries and is being investigated by police in the US, Italy, New Zealand, and Australia. He's not facing any charges outside of Canada. In Ontario alone, 11 police services have joined forces to investigate Law.
It could drag on for years.
This expert in transnational criminal law says the instances of cross-border crimes are growing, which drives the need for international cooperation.
The growth factor for this kind of crime is exponential. So it's really important that police and prosecutors the world over be able to cooperate. And that kind of cooperation can be very complex, particularly if there are different kinds of legal systems involved.
UK authorities say no cases outside of Canada will be included in investigations or prosecutions here. Law is expected back in court in Brampton in 2 weeks. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
If you or someone you know is struggling, help is available through Talk Suicide Canada, like you can see right now on your screen. You can also get assistance through Kids Help Phone and the Canadian Association for Suicide Prevention. Welcome back. A number of local churches who have stepped up to offer to help asylum seekers are calling on the government to follow through on its promises. Several are still operating as temporary shelters for hundreds with nowhere to sleep. Despite the cost of housing so many people, they say they've yet to receive any government money. Ali Chiasson has more.
I call upon my sister Judith, I'm going to call you.
Exhausted, insulted, Pastor Eddie Jumba, with the help of fellow faith leaders who've been housing hundreds of asylum seekers in their churches, take a stand.
This is what you have done. All the levels of government that have ignored our voices. We have spoken for 5 weeks now. I am not wearing this collar until the very last person has been moved to a place of dignity, to a space where they will be received and welcomed with dignity. This is a protest.
Last month, while hundreds of people slept outside the shelter referral center downtown, all 3 levels of government pointed fingers at one another as to who was responsible for housing them. Within days, Black-led organizations rallied and churches opened their doors. It's been more than a month, and it's estimated about 600 people are still living in places of worship throughout the city.
They have done what is biblical, according to Matthew 25. You saw me naked. You clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. I was hungry, and you fed me. We know how to apply the biblical mandate into these experiences. But as I said, it is not sustainable over time. And therefore, we are asking the government to step up, play your part in ensuring that our people get the necessary help that they need.
The federal government pledged $97 million for refugee shelter costs, money the faith leaders say they have yet to see put to good use.
We don't know what is the pause in the bureaucracy of the government. So we're asking the government that we need to be around the table so we can help you design and craft the strategy to help us out of this dilemma. And that's why we come today as the collective.
Today, the city announced they'll give the 3 main churches $50,000 to offset some costs. And
we, in 2 of those churches, we are providing 6 staff to be the liaison with them. And we will have a more comprehensive plan as we go forward.
No stranger to government workings is Mitzi Hunter, who joined the faith leaders today.
You know, I was in office when we responded to the Syrian refugee settlement. I was Minister of Education, and I saw the amazing coordination and the effort and the leadership of all levels of government working in concert to respond to a humanitarian cause. We need to do that now. We need to do that today for these refugees.
Our expectation is that the 3 levels of government will do what they said they would do.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, we might be heading into the last weekend before the Labor Day long weekend, but summer is being extended in Toronto. Mayor Olivia Chow announcing 10 outdoor pools will remain open 3 weeks longer than originally planned.
It will open after school. So when the kids are back from their school, when they go back to school after Labor Day, they can still have fun after school.
The mayor taking a dive of her own in the pool at Christie Pitts Park. Pools will be open from September 4th to the 24th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. on weekdays and from noon to 7 on weekends. Chow says underspending in the existing budget is allowing them to keep those pools open longer. A full list of pools staying open can be found on the city's website. And speaking of pool weather, let's get back to Riley for a look at your extended forecast. Riley, how are things looking?
Well, Farah, I mentioned that winds could be a bit of an issue tomorrow. We'll talk about that coming up. But looking at our future cast as we get into the morning, we're looking at a mainly cloudy sky to start the day across southern Ontario tomorrow. Pretty, cloudy for the most part. We'll start to see things clearing out, though, once we get into the afternoon. I think that's when we have the best chance for a shower, maybe a thunderstorm. I think the further north you go, the better chance for that shower or that thunderstorm in the afternoon tomorrow. Getting into the rest of the day, skies clear out as high pressure sets in as we get into Sunday. Sunday. We start the day Sunday with sunshine, and that is really the story of Sunday. Sunny Sunday across southern Ontario and into Monday. Really not much to speak of. A lot less humid come Sunday as well. So in terms of rainfall, not much to speak of. We're looking at really nothing across southern Ontario. Most of that centered through the Ottawa region and up into northern Ontario, where we have seen some rain through the day today. The winds could be a bit of a factor, though, as we get into the weekend. Looking at the first thing in the morning tomorrow, winds gusting to 30 in Toronto out of the west. We'll see winds shifting around out of the northwest and out of the north by the time we get into early Sunday, and then things really die off as we get into Sunday. So pretty calm skies as we get into Sunday as well. Definitely the better day to get outside. So looking at your forecast for tonight, 18 in Windsor, 17 in Toronto and Hamilton. We're looking at partly cloudy skies. We'll start to see skies clearing out as we get into the day tomorrow. 23, a slim chance of showers, I think, pretty well region-wide across southern Ontario tomorrow. 22 through the mid-afternoon in Toronto, and a chance of a thunderstorm. Better chance of showers, I think, north toward Kingston and into Ottawa, where we could see some more thunderstorm activity into the day tomorrow. So looking at your extended forecast, I did put that slim chance of a shower in for Saturday. Sunday and Monday looking quite nice as we start the new work week with 22 degrees. Another 22 with some cloud cover building in for Tuesday, and a slim chance of another shower or so on Wednesday. So far, pretty seasonal for this time of the year, but we could see some more humidity becoming a factor into the day tomorrow.
And finally tonight, Leafs forward Austin Matthews spoke to the media for the first time since inking a new deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs that would keep him here in Toronto through the 2028 season. In a virtual press conference today, Matthews says Toronto is home.
Passion, my belief in this team, and loving playing here in the city of Toronto, and for these great fans, and for the Maple Leafs. Like I've expressed before, I take a lot of pride in that, and I've really enjoyed my time here.
Matthews still had 1 year left on his current 5-year contract, so this new deal actually begins at the conclusion of the upcoming season. He says getting the deal done now allows him to focus on his on-ice performance this coming season. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Farah Morali. I will have your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. We leave you now with a look at Day 2 at Fan Expo, happening all weekend at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre. Have a great night.